Good afternoon, everybody. If this is your second Zoom call with us today, good to see you again. Welcome to the fourth Sales and Networking panel, and today is about creating referral partnerships in a virtual world. I'm excited to invite the three panelists from our Ambassador Committee, Chris Harris with Refuse Ordinary, Chris Vasquez from Morningside Senior Living, and Mark Bernecker from Cloud9. They have some exciting tips and tricks to talk to you guys about today. And at the end, we'll have a live Q&A session, so feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your questions directly. But I'm going to pass it off to Chris B.
Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry. Thank you for logging on. Just want to kind of touch base on something we're all going through, creating partnerships during COVID. First off, we'll start off with the ever so popular Zoom. Everyone's kind of zoomed out these days, but there's still some importance to Zoom. If you are on a meeting with Zoom, don't only pay attention to the content, pay attention who else is jumping on. Now, what I mean by that is Zoom meetings with 400 people, that's not the ideal place to create a new partnership. It's kind of like being in a college classroom with 400 students. You're not going to know anyone. So with that, I would first, if you could host your own meeting, definitely go that route and take attendance. Make sure you know who's coming and where they're from, and if you could potentially set up a partnership with them. That's definitely a route you want to go. But then move on from there and set up the one-to-one meeting. Now, during COVID, if they're more comfortable with the Zoom one-to-one, go that route. Or if you can get some social distance coffee, something along those lines, definitely use that. Now, one of the main things with the partnerships that we're all kind of dealing with is, one, some of our clientele and our relationships are kind of dwindling because of COVID. We have to kind of work on that. So don't give up on your old referral sources or your old partnerships. Learn about them, see what they're doing, and see where they're going. Now, I'll give you an example that I've used in the past is with senior living. A lot of places are not referring to rehabs anymore because of the fear of COVID. So I took a step back and looked at, well, where are these doctors referring their patients to? Home health. Everyone's safer at home, right? So start teaming up with home health companies. So now, once you kind of identify who these new partnerships might be, you're going to have to kind of think outside the box in order to get their attention and willing to do business with you. One of the things that seems to work well with me is a lunch and learn Zoom seminar. So what I mean by that is if there's a new doctor's office that I'm trying to get in and see if I can speak to the doctor or whatnot, everyone doesn't want those unnecessary individuals in their spaces. I get it. We're all dealing with it. However, I can send over a lunch to them along with an iPad, and as they're all munching down on the lunch, they could turn on the iPad and I could give my presentation. So it's just like the lunch and learn that everyone's accustomed to, with a little COVID twist on it. Now, additionally, when you do find these new partnerships you want to kind of cultivate, do the drop-offs. So what I mean by that is you could drop off those little treats, the snacks, things like that to these people, but please, please, please do not do the drop and go. And what I mean by that is, I work for a senior living community. I could tell you twice a day, I get a package from somebody at the front door that wants my business, but then that's it. I get a little bag of candy with the card attached, and then I never hear from them again. I can tell you right now that is almost zero effectiveness. You might get an email thank you for the drop off, but traditionally you won't. I mean, most of the time it gets tossed into my mailbox. You pick it up. Oh, who's this from? And it goes to the bottom of your to-do list. So what I mean is drop off something that's going to create urgency. Coffee. You can't leave coffee in a mailbox. Drop off the coffee so they got to come up and they can say hi to you. I'm not saying, show up unannounced. I'm trying to make an appointment like that. But really setting the appointment is key. Drop and goes never work. Another event that's really worked well for us, and most of you might have heard of, is pickup events for professionals. So at Morningside of Williamsburg, we do the annual pie pickup. I know most of you have participated in it before. So the day before Thanksgiving, the team at Morningside of Williamsburg prepares homemade pies for professionals and people in the community. There's no strings attached. There's nothing you have to do except for drive up, pick up your pie, and keep going. Lets them check off one other thing off of their to-do list for Thanksgiving. However, you're also in their mind. Hey, Chris makes my life easier every year. Let's keep him in mind. Additionally, social media is great, you know, but social media, posting a picture is one thing. Posting a picture with a call to action is even better. Now, what I mean by that, recently on Morningside of Williamsburg's Facebook page, we posted a photo of a young lady with her gingerbread house. Okay, that's great. However, if you add a call to action with the gingerbread house, hey, everybody, post your photos of your gingerbread houses on there too. You're catching people's eyes and making them participate. You're you're taking yourself that up extra little notch that everybody will kind of recognize. Besides that, you know, hosting virtual events, like I said, you know, targeting your key attendees and thinking outside the box. When you do all that, you have to understand when you develop these new partnerships, there's going to be some compromise, you know, and it's always going to have to be a win-win for everybody. Especially during these times, no one's looking for, you know, a win-lose scenario. So, for instance, with me, with senior living, okay, people will refer to me. That's perfect, but then I'll use their services. You know, they'll refer to me because they know I provide a quality product at Morningside, and I'll use their home health because I know they provide a quality product. And then you create that relationship. Lastly, the topic I like to speak on is kind of becoming a connector. Work with the relationships and partnerships you have, and be a tool for them and for anyone. You know, I get about 2 calls a day where someone just calls me, hey, I'm looking for some information. Now, you might not need me, you might not use my service. However, I've helped you, and you will then remember me. Kind of like you're putting the good back out into the world, and it will come back. But I'm going to pass it off to Chris Harris to speak to you on the strategic portion of this.
Strategery? I'm doing that one? Thanks, man. To pick up where Chris left off, Chris talked about a lot of tactics, basically what you do out in the field, and more tips and tricks on how to get engagement. What I want to do is back up and talk about an overarching strategy in the context of creating strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships, in my definition, there are folks that work around your ideal market. So I'll just pick one for example. Say your ideal market or your ideal prospect is a business owner. You look at other professionals that work with that individual. So for example, if a small business owner, what are other professionals that interface with that person regularly? It could be an accountant. It could be a small business lawyer. It could be a marketing firm. Those are the types of professionals that we're looking to partner with when we're talking about referral partnerships, in the event that they could cross-refer. Also, this applies to not only individuals, but there might be organizations that are good fits for you to partner with as well. So this is kind of interchangeable when I'm talking about individuals or organizations. So what I want to walk you through is a process, a 5-step process of cultivation. I call this the strategic partner creation process, or SPCP. So before I dive in, I want folks to think about using this process when hopefully all this is over, whether that's a year from now or whether that's 30 years from now. But you can interchangeably use this process in person or virtually. I think some people get hung up with, well, I can't really read the person that's across from me because I've got this computer screen and I can't really sense it. You'll actually develop senses, whether it's your ears or eyes, that are over time by using technology more often. Folks that really get, and I can tell you what Chris was talking about, Zoom fatigue, this idea of seeing someone can really be distracting when you're using a computer. If it really shuts you down, go back to the good old fashioned phone and just start the relationship that way. But the first step in this five-step process is identifying. What I mean by identifying, when you think of that ideal market or ideal individual, that it tends to be your favorite prospect. And again, there's individuals. So we'll use example, go back to the small business owner. The accountants or the law firm that interfaces with them or the marketing firm, identify the position that person holds. So I might need, as far as who do I need as strategic partners, I might need an accountant, I might need a small business owner, I might, or excuse me, a law firm that specializes in contract law. I might need to interface with a commercial real estate agent. But think of the positions, not necessarily the individuals, but what are the positions? If I'm going to create my team of strategic partners, I want to identify the positions on that team first. The second step in this is finding. So once you've identified what you're looking for, identify the individuals that might fulfill that role. So if you've identified a commercial real estate agent is a good person to be a strategic partner with you, go through LinkedIn, go through your other referral sources, and really identify who are the top ones that would be good for you to know. And identify the individuals and find them. So go out and look for those individuals and go find them, set up phone calls, or set up Zoom sessions. The title of this particular thing that we're doing today is about authentic relationships. So I'm giving you some strategies, but I want to hover a little bit on this step 3, which is selecting your partner or your strategic partner. I think we get all excited about finding the right individual. We meet with them, we have a great meeting. We're like, yay, we're going to refer business, and nothing happens. For anyone that's a small business owner and you've endeavored to find an employee, did you just throw an ad out, get the employee and say, great, you showed up, and then you hire them? No, there's hopefully a stringent recruiting process and selection process and criteria that individual must meet before you bring them on as an employee. For anyone that's endeavored to get married, it's the same thing. You didn't just show up, get married, and you're done. You went through a whole selection process of, is this one? I think this might be a long-term relationship. So I want you to think about really setting up specific criteria for selecting a good strategic partner. And there's a couple of criteria there. The first one is personal fit. Is the person that I'm sitting with, again, or across from, or virtually, or live, or on the phone, is that person, do they personally click with me? Is this someone I could just have a good conversation with? It doesn't feel weird, doesn't feel rushed, but is there a connection there? That's the first layer of fit. The second layer of fit is business fit or organizational fit, is what they do from an organization. So we'll take a physician, for example. A physician may say, you know, who would be a good strategic partner for me as a physical therapist? Is what they do compatible with my business? And is there an opportunity there? So that's the second level of fit. The third level of fit is product and service fit, or service. Is the service that they provide, is that in line with kind of what I think I could do business with or go back and forth? Is that a good fit for what my services are? Is there an opportunity for mutual compatibility here? So those are the 3 big ones: personal fit, business fit, and product fit. That's great that you have this didactic way of approaching it, but that has nothing to do with this authentic piece. The authentic piece is when you integrate your values and ethics into these conversations. What I mean by that is when people say, you know, I've got this criteria for personal fit. They got to be good people. You know, I've got to be able to have a conversation with them. That's surfacey stuff. You want to figure out, okay, what are my personal values? And this is how I explain this process of, let me walk myself through this. What are my personal values that are important to me? What are the ethics and values that are important for my business? And what are the values and ethics that are important for me to portray in my product or service that I'm putting out there? And what I want to weave that into is my story. So when I'm sharing someone, you know, here's my personal journey of how I became a fill in the blank, a physician or a town manager. This was my journey. And then this is how my business got started. This is its journey. And you're weaving in the things that are important to you, the values, the ethics, the hard decisions that you made, and then the product and service. This is why I work a fair amount with some physicians and lawyers. This is why I decided to go into concierge practice versus insurance practice. You're really hitting on this the journey of how you got there, the journey of your business, and then the journey of your product and service and the story behind that. And when you relay that to an individual, it cues them to actually share their story, something a little more genuine, something that uncovers what's driving the decisions they made based on that data that you've collected. And this doesn't need to be done in one conversation. In fact, it's hard to do it in one conversation. But figure out those 3 big pieces: the personal fit, the business fit, and the product fit. What is the criteria you're searching for and that you're selecting for? And this has to be mutual. Just because you're all about them does not mean they're going to be all about you. But after a couple of conversations and you've gone through these criteria, and again, weaving in the values and ethics piece throughout it, then you've decided, you know what, we want to move forward in this relationship. I think this is going to work out. I think we might, I don't know that we're always going to be able to do business together, but I think I would like to invest more time in this relationship. Once you've done that, so backing up a little bit, we've identified the what, we've found the who. Now we've gone through a rigorous selection process over more than one meeting, whether it's virtual or in person. And then you move down to the fourth layer, which is defining the relationship. This is also a step that a lot of people skip. Defining the relationship is basically setting up the criteria of what makes this relationship tick. How do you want it to look like? What's the frequency of our interaction? Are we going to be once a week, once a month? How often are we going to do this? What's the volume of referrals to expect from each other? So I'll use, again, some people don't quite get that one, a physician versus a physical therapist. A physical therapist might see a whole lot of referrals coming their way, and they might not always be able to reciprocate it back to the physician. And the physician is usually okay with that. They just want to do right by the patient. Exclusivity is a conversation you probably want to have. Is this going to be just you and me, or are we going to be having other people that represent different versions of what I do? Are there going to be referral fees? That's up to you. I'm not going to say whether they're good or bad or indifferent. That's also part of your values and ethics. If that's important for you to have that conversation, have that conversation. If it's not, then don't. And then the last thing, that as far as this last piece that was talking about defining a relationship, is how are you going to measure how successful this relationship is? What are the metrics you're going to use? Is it referrals? Is it how they promote your business? But how are you going to be able to measure when the end of the year, and Mark's going to talk more about this, whether this relationship is a good use of your time and a good use of their time? And you need to have that discussion up front once you decide to move forward, is how are we going to measure whether this thing is working or not, and agree on whatever that measurement is. The last step in this 5-step process is called cultivate. And what that means is the ongoing things you do to make sure you are fostering and adding value to this relationship. I think whether pre-COVID or post-COVID or during COVID, we kind of got hung up with, okay, I've got a relationship and I've got so many I got to manage. And then all of a sudden someone just doesn't refer business to you anymore. That's because you didn't do a whole lot of cultivating, staying in touch with that person, seeing what's going on in their world, seeing how they're being affected and what they've had to do to change. And if you don't do it often enough, it can set you up for another person that does what you do to snake that referral source from right underneath you. And that's where I'm going to pause this conversation, because that's exactly what Mark's going to talk about, are the things you do and the things you don't do once you got these relationships established.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think before I dive into that, just to piggyback what you were saying, I think you and I are probably a great example of partnering fit. I don't know how long it's been. It's probably been every bit of like 10 years. That we've been partnering in a lot of a variety of capacities, but I think that's a great example of if you build the partnership correctly, properly, it's something not short term, it's a long-term game, and I don't, in my opinion, the longer our partnership is developed, our ability to refer each other to people has become more and more seamless. I mean, we're an example of, we're actually off the schedule I'm going to talk about, because we're so dialed into what each other's doing, and it's just a great example where you want to be with your relationship. So, and
when they switch careers, even when they switch careers or job capacities, that relationship goes with it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so I wanted to go with what Chris was saying, talk about partnership effectiveness and and honestly failure. My responsibility, I have a crazy fancy title, but I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Cloud9, which quite simply means I'm responsible for everything that is tied to revenue. So every avenue that's tied to revenue, and one of the biggest components of that is our channel. It's our channel network and our channel partnerships. And ironically, with what I'm going to go through today at 3 and 4 o'clock respectively, I have to have two very frank conversations with two of our channel partners about where the relationship is not and what we do to either keep it or, just say, hey, it's been great. It's time for everyone to move on and, find the best fits for both of us. But we certainly don't want either party wasting time. So, we got to have that conversation to do. So I put two things into two buckets. And they're about 4 to 5 bullet points in each bucket. But the first one is things to do. When you identify a potential partnering opportunity, the first thing you need to do is you need to immediately set up a regular meeting schedule. And it's got to be a schedule that both parties committed to completing, not put it on the calendar and come up with excuses that you need to change it. You need to treat that scheduled date and time as a commitment and a priority. Then you need to, after you set that schedule, both parties must be committed to bringing value added information to every meeting. What that value added information, that's going to be between you and the prospective partner. Then that's where you'll, create your agenda. I was on a call at 10 a.m. this morning, and the agenda is, for this particular commitment is, it's pretty simple. We bring to the table what companies and people we're targeting, who knows who, what warm angles can we find, and go. There's really, it's who it's not what you know. So, that's the part of that agenda. You need to create some sort of mutual goal to revisit each meeting. So what in that agenda, what are you looking to get out of that and making that a priority goal? If you have that commitment to one another, you're going to be more committed to bring that information to the table when that meeting is set. And, and for me personally, as a person, I take commitment seriously. I guess today this is probably considered more old school, but I'm like a handshake, and, when I shake someone's hand, I mean it. My word's my word, and I'm committed to it. So if I know I have to bring that information to that meeting. Another thing is, critical to share business updates around your organization. What is going on in your business that's affecting you, that's affecting your business, that's affecting your customers and other relationships, and vice versa. Key new business, your alliances are going to help those new product launches that you're about to do, or those new service ideas that you're about to do. They're an extension of your sales team. I consider, my partners an extension of my sales team, and, they're not on the payroll, but I know if I have a new product rolling out or a new service idea, I know without fail, I can call Chris Harris, and probably another 25 to 30 people are going to know about it immediately. So you want to cover those items in constantly with your referral partners. It's critical to keep everyone excited. If you're not excited about your partnership, you're going to drift into that out of sight, out of mind mentality with it. And how do you keep everyone excited? Well, being an active participant in the commitments, doing what you committed to do, that's going to keep everyone excited. And at some point along the line, you're going to close business, you're going to refer business, and everyone's happy. To Chris's point with physical therapists and doctors, everyone's going to know their place. I mean, it's, you got to kind of know where your place is and where your fit is in that relationship. And if you understand what your value is, you're always going to get something out of it, big or small. You're always going to get something out of it. And that's the other thing. You got to look at a relationship not being a big windfall opportunity. It's rarely ever like that. Will a big windfall come along the way? Yes, something big will happen, but it's not a week, it's not a month, it's not a year thing that you can predict, but it will happen if you're committed. Then also keeping people excited in my world, it's creating different incentives along the way. So in our channel program, we pay for referrals, and how that's paid, it's based on closed business. So if someone refers me someone, I am paying them money. They're getting paid for that referral. Or it could be in gift cards. Chris flips me something, and I don't know, information like that's probably extreme, but something to the effect. And then on an annual base, which is what I'm going through, now you got to reevaluate the incentives that you all put forth if you're in that category. And that's a part of this afternoon for me, reviewing the incentive programs. Now to go into a different bucket, things not to do and what leads to failure, and these are all important. And sometimes this really needs to be, I think by nature, people are just kind of like, well, that's what they did, not what I didn't do. It's one of those, hey, both parties need to look in the mirror about where the relationship's at and who's doing what. And, just treat it as such. So, things that you want to watch for that are easily leading to failure, or things that you don't want happening, is, one party or person is doing all the work. If you're not sharing the effort and what you're committing to in the partnership, you're going to get frustrated and it's going to lead to failure. I mean, I think that's self-explanatory. Both parties get disinterested or get lazy. I'll put the get lazy aspect into, that's when the meetings start canceling. The excuses, oh, I got a huge client meeting that bubbled up. My boss wants me to do this. I mean, it's like anything. If you're going to commit to going to see a customer, you're never going to miss the appointment. You got to treat your referral partner as a customer. If you treat them as a customer, you're never changing that appointment. So once that happens, for me, it's a clear-cut sign that, something's going wrong in the relationship. And, I've been in sales 25 years. So for me at this point, that's kind of a sales 101 call sign. Avoid the out of sight, out of mind. Going back to what I said previously, even if you're the one that has to drive it. And I'll, and just because we're all in this call together and I have the luxury of having Chris with me and we have this partnership, Chris has been an example on my end who has done the better job of us two, keeping the, insight and in mind going constantly. And I appreciate that, Chris. I mean, I really do. It's one of the greatest, I'd say, traits of our partnership, that you are the one that consistently, if I'm missing something, I'll hear from Chris. It's without fail, I'll hear from Chris. So it's okay to be that person, is what I'm saying. I mean, it's, that's an example. I don't put that as Chris is doing all the work. Chris is driving the insight and in mind, and when we get on the call, it's highly productive. So that would not be an example of that framework, but you got to be committed to that partnership. Another thing, ignoring business and value changes. Have there been changes in the other person's business? Have you noticed, just value differences in how they're approaching business, how they're approaching people, behavioral changes? As you build a relationship and over time, you'll see that in people just in like everyday life. So, you got to pay attention to that. Once that starts happening, you're drifting to another point of failure. Then, lastly is allowing someone else to come in and steal your relationship. This is really critical. And if your alliances are strictly tied to, industry specific segments, where I'll use an example, we do voice over IP. So we're in telephones. My alliances with IT companies is critical. and they're very hard to manage because there's so many IT companies out there. Like if I don't do what Chris does with me and drive the communication, I know someone else is going to steal it. And it could be to the fit connection. I just don't fit with that IT person, no matter what I do to try, or someone comes in with a program incentive that just blows our incentive program out of the water. And because I didn't work on the relationship, I never had a chance to counter, and it's done. So, Chris times two, did I miss anything?
You're good, man. You nailed it. You nailed it. And I think, Courtney, what we did last time, Courtney Thompson, what we did last time at the end of our panel was we invited folks that are watching this live, that are joining us on the Zoom call, to go ahead and fire out questions to us. It can be sort of off topic, but generally around the realm of creating strategic partnerships. We're on the line for you and happy to answer some of those questions live. If you are a little more, would like to do that more individually, I'm sure Courtney can arrange that as well.
Shoot, I'd like input from anyone that has any other ideas or tips. I mean, everything's evolving and
changing and getting weird.
Yeah. I mean, any tips is welcome on our side too. Trust me.
Yeah.
Since the COVID started, I did do a couple of lunch and learns.
Hey, Brian.
And how's it going, Chris?
Hey, man. Good to see you.
Definitely. It's been a while. My lunch and learns, they went off fairly well. The only problem I had with them is nobody had their cameras on. So I didn't know if they were just enjoying a free lunch and just had us in the background or what. So need to find some kind of Zoom platform that doesn't allow you to turn the cameras off. So before I do any more lunch and learns.
I could chime in there with lunch and learns. Given the traditional just kind of speech, you do have a tendency to just kind of shut it off and enjoy the free lunch that you brought them. So when I do it, I typically try to make it more interactive. Like right off the bat, I always ask a question. This way they're like, oh, wait, this guy's looking for a response. It's not just going to be, let's pick it up and go. So this way, if you start off with a question, look for a response, and just kind of, put your questions intermittently throughout your presentation, you pretty much hold them on the hook.
The other thing you can do there, Brian, is you can inject a little humor in there and go, man, I did this for the group last time, and all of them had their cameras off. I had no idea what they're doing. And I felt horrible. Can you not do that for me? Because it was $1,000 lunch. I don't know if they liked it or not.
Good old guilt trips.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this isn't rocket science, but part of our program is having social events for our residents and business partners to meet each other. And of course, with COVID, we haven't been able to do that. So we've been trying to find other ways to connect our clients with the residents. We're still working on that. We started a private Facebook group just for residents and our clients.
Nice.
But we also did we did this and it was successful. We're doing another one. We did a virtual networking so that our clients could meet each other, because so many of them are trying to reach the same residents, the same market. They can refer each other, and that went very well, was very well received. So we're actually doing another one next week.
That's great. Anna, Mike, Amber, or Kristen, I like that I can see everybody at the top. Any questions from you guys?
This is Kristen. I'll just ask, so I just started business last January, and then, COVID hit. And so I found it hard being totally brand new, because I used to commute to Richmond and work for McKesson for 10 years. Like, I don't know a lot of people here. So we've been doing a lot of cold calling, which, to be honest, with COVID is really hard because everybody has enough stuff to worry about. So, I just joined a BNI, and so I'm hopeful that'll help. Do you have any other suggestions of how, because I feel like it was easier when you had live events and you could meet at over a drink and have a little more, but these Zoom things to me are a little hard when we're just cold calling, of how else to meet other people, to kind of network with when you're new.
I'll chime in on that one. I've had a similar experience. I'm not from here. I'm from New York City. So when I moved down here, I knew nobody. I knew no one in the field. I got hired for a job at a local skilled nursing center. And all I'll tell you is just give up. Keep it going and start creating that network. Get on with one person. The BNI is great. You're going to get, the size of your BNI group, maybe 10 people there, but then grow on that. Have private meetings with them and then expand from there. Kind of make the tree branch out from each one of those. Use each one of those people as a potential way to meet two other people. And Williamsburg's a great community. Everyone really works together. Everyone kind of does know everybody. So you just have to work your way in and slowly grow your network.
And I'd echo that back to the finding strategy I was talking about and identifying. So what's your industry, Kristen?
I own Gym Guys. We're mobile fitness or personal trainers that come to your house.
So folks that interact with fitness professionals, whether they're other physicians, nurses, whether there are vendors that supply certain things, but in your BNI group, kind of identify those. So not necessarily use your BNI group for referrals, but it's BNI is really good for directing you to good potential strategic partners.
Okay.
And then have those folks within BNI perhaps do a three-way introduction via email. If Kristen's a good person, she's new to the community for Richmond. I heard she did a bang up job, doctor such and such or whatever, vendor such and such. I really think it'd be good for you guys to connect. She's just trying to get a feel of how the community in Williamsburg, and that tone is set. I'm just here to explore different folks and get the lay of the land, which is essentially what you're doing from a networking. And then what Chris said, you go from one to the other, but really getting an idea of who your strategic partner should be before you go to, and then you can use your BNI group to actually identify the individuals. And if you've put some equity in there, not just money, but spend some time there trying to help other people get connected, they'll reciprocate that by connecting folks for you.
Okay.
And I'm sure this is all of us, but I mean, I think right now I'm in like 5 or 6 different networking groups. I'm happy to invite you to all of them and you just kind of figure out, where a fit is, and you just get to meet people.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just joined BNI and I'm going to a satellite Rotary that Brandon introduced me to as well. And so I figure I'll try those and kind of go from there.
Sure. Did that help, Kristen?
Yeah, no, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Anna, Mike, or Amber, you got anything? Can't hide. We're not gonna let you hide.
I had my face showing, so I wasn't hiding from you, Chris.
Love your earrings. Love your earrings.
Oh, thank you. I got all fancy for you today, dressed up. Not necessarily a question, but just to maybe add to the referral piece. There might be sometimes too that you have a referral partner that maybe you think there might not be opportunity to refer to that person based on industry changes. Yeah. However, I would say to still keep making contact with those referral partners and just kind of continue to touch base, because you never know when something is going to change, maybe in your role specifically, or just something upcoming. Just to kind of give an example, we recently onboarded a payroll company to assist with payroll for Chesapeake Bank. But, in the past, I've had some other referral partners that I would send referrals to. Now, does that mean that I cut that connection off? No, I'm still going to make that connection and continue to touch base with that person. You just never know what's going to happen in the future. So I would say even to continuing to make those connections. And then also too, maybe connecting with some folks in the community as well that do know folks. Like, I'm always happy to connect anybody to maybe some folks that I know through e-introductions or through phone call or Zoom or whatever it may be now. So if there's anyone out there too that, is looking to connect, Kristen, I know that you'd mentioned something. I'd be happy if you reached out to me, or I can reach out to you, whatever would work. I'd be happy to connect you if there's some folks within the community that you were thinking about as well.
And I think it's also very important to remember that these partnerships don't have to only be based on what your business is. I'll give you an example. I was at a business meeting about a month ago, and the young lady I was having a meeting with sits down. She goes, "Hey, do you know this guy named Mike who might happen to be on this call right now?" And I said, "I do know Mike. What's going on?" She goes, "Oh, we sat down. He set me up with a great insurance policy, and so we just got talking, over this situation, and she got me thinking, oh man, I think I'm going to have to put my adult pants on now and go and get more coverage and insurance and stuff, and utilize Mike's services, even though I might not be able to use them in my business, but in my own personal life, I I trust Mike. I know he provides a good service, so that's another way just to kind of think about it. Just don't think business to business, you could think business to person.
And Mark, you made a point. You guys can't see the chat that we're seeing, but Mark, did you want to share a little bit about some of the strategies you've used on LinkedIn?
Well, I've been on LinkedIn. I'm actually one of the first million people that was ever on LinkedIn. I'm still waiting for them to throw a freaking party since everyone in the world's on there. But I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn, and I think it gets you where you want to go quicker. My approach on LinkedIn is, as I'm identifying companies that I want to target, I identify people in those organizations, and I'll send them the connection note with, hey, I want to connect. I'm all about networking, etc. But in my note is I'll cast a line out there, not on every one, but I'll cast a line. Hey, I'm going to try to reach out to you in the next couple weeks. So I'm kind of laying the groundwork that I'm going to call. Then I'll call, and actually my hit rate is pretty solid, doing that. But I can't think of a better way, to really connect with people where it's just warm. But the sales teams that I've developed over the years, particularly with LinkedIn, my whether they were a sales executive, whatever their title was, I personally commit to connecting with 25 people every morning. So every morning when I start my day, it's sending out 25 invitations. And I lost track of that for a few years when I was flying all over the place, but a few years ago, and that kind of backed off a little bit. Like I should cross the 10,000 mark.
Wow.
Here shortly, as far as connections go on LinkedIn. But if I run a search, I will find people and either get them away from being a third degree to a second degree, where you can convert them over to a first level contact. So like Kristen, as far as trying to find people outside of these networking groups, I would definitely do your due diligence on LinkedIn too, and joining groups. You have to join groups on LinkedIn to get your name out quicker. For example, I'm a Christopher Newport alum, so I'm on the Christopher Newport University alumni group. I'm on former companies alumni groups. So I started a career with a company called Robert Half International when I got out of college, and there's like over 20,000 members. It's a global company. So, you want to be able to leverage people in your network to get introduced to other people. It's the easiest way to get connected.
Yeah. And a note on LinkedIn, particularly when you're talking about a community like Williamsburg that's very tight knit and everybody pretty much that's established knows everybody. Do your homework. So like Mark said, it's a wonderful tool, LinkedIn, for research, data mining. You can actually use for prospecting in the context of strategic partnerships. If there's a person you've identified that would be really good for you to know from a strategic partnership perspective, go on their profile and research them purple. Learn about their business, go to their website, really understand what they are, where they come from, what they do. Then at that point, if you decided, yeah, this is probably a good person for me to know, then reach out to them on LinkedIn. Hey, John or Sarah, whatever name you want to use. I noticed that blah, 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 and the history of you going from Virginia Tech to Longwood or whatever it was, and that you started your own entrepreneurial venture with blah, 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 and that you've written, your blog article was really interesting. I thought it was impactful. I work with fill in the blank, and I thought we might have the opportunity to get to know each other and maybe down the road be able to refer business. Is this a conversation you're open to? If I get a LinkedIn invite like that, this person spent some time vetting me and knowing me. This is where I think I might be able to add value to your relationship, because I work with, so I don't know what kind of, I'll use Kristen's example. You might work with post-rehab type folks that are, they've been released from their physical therapist and they're clear for exercise, and that might be who you work with. And this is a physical therapy group that you're working, this is where I've worked, and I think this is where we overlap, and this is where I might be able to add value to your folks. If you're open to a conversation, just let me know, just fire back. If it's something of that, but do your homework. I admire Mark's volume approach in Williamsburg, because everybody's like, I get 1,000 of those, who are you? type deal. Plus adding another, Mark said it would be good for us to connect. If you've got that third person to add, that we call it denominator, that's a way to get a little more traction using a platform like LinkedIn. And you can do the same thing if you're not getting in through LinkedIn, and you can do it through an email address as well. Same thing. I did all this, I learned all about this. This is where I think we might be able to add value to our relationships, but I want to put the ball in your court to pursue it. Is how we do it.
One of the things I've always had trouble doing is like especially on LinkedIn, you might find somebody, but there's either they don't allow you to message them directly through LinkedIn, or you can't find an email address. I use a lot of directories. I use the Williamsburg Chamber directory all the time, trying to get in touch with people there, and that's been really helpful. Another thing, I found an ad, a website. It's a data app. It's called it's Apollo, APOLLO. I'll put the web address in there. You get a free trial, and if you're having something that you can't find an email or a phone number or something like that, this site has been huge in helping me get in touch with these people and finding it. It's you get a free trial and everything. I've used CoStar in the past, where that could be upwards of $12,000 to $15,000 a year for their data that they give you. And it's great data. They'll give you every kind of information you want on different properties and things like that. But this one I found, you can sign up for it, and there's a fee if you sign up for it. You get a certain amount of different lookups and all that. But for the free trial, it's something you might want to check. But you can list them by the person's name if you have the name, what their company is, and if the company's in there, they might have a list of all the people in there with their titles. So it might be somebody you can actually look at. So if you're looking at executives that are busy and don't have time to go to the gym or something, you might be looking for CEOs or COOs or something like that. And you can just look that in that Williamsburg area, and you can just reach out to all of them as well. So that's definitely something to try.
Yeah, that sounds better. Like Zoom Info is another one of those expensive ones. Just like Brian was saying. And what you're sharing, Brian, sounds even better. What I've found with Zoom Info is it's all big company info. And when I was trying to look for companies, small companies as far as Williamsburg goes, finding any of that data in like Zoom Info was impossible. The only plus thing with that service, if you send them a company name, within 48 to 72 hours, they will come back to you with all the contacts and contact information that they can find, because they got all that crazy algorithm stuff where they can find anyone, which should scare us all, but they have it.
Mark, what was that website you're talking about?
Zoom Info.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not the same as this Zoom. It's there was two companies. It was Zoom Info and Discover.org. Discover.org bought Zoom Info, but they're going with the Zoom Info name.
Any other questions from folks? Anybody?
Apollo, sweet.
Hey guys, how's it going? Mike here.
Hey Mike.
How you guys, I'm about a year and a half into the, my State Farm business, And, we're working hard. We're grinding here, trying to build our business. We're gonna open another one here in 6 months, 5 months.
Good.
Down in new community. So, I'm just in this grind with our processes and helping people, appointments with our current policyholders, new policyholders, that sort of thing. And, my big struggle is getting out and sitting down and meeting people, or carving out that time to go and network in person. And I have a team member that is my marketer and goes out on Fridays. And we have a process where we hit certain centers of influence and that sort of things, and connect, with our dealerships and that sort of thing, companies that make sense to do business with each other. It's more about like, I don't know if you guys can share some tips of, how you block out time to develop these partnerships. And that's kind of where my struggle is. Is it, hey, do I just block out Thursdays, or let's make it a point to have, whatever it is, lunch every Thursday, and I'm going to fill that with one of my, referral partners or just, other business partners. I mean, how do you what is like your cadence? Chris, I see you all over the place. Like, you're just everywhere. Basket. There's what does it look like for you guys?
Which Chris V or Chris H?
Vasquez.
That guy.
He's all over the place.
Yeah, he is. I think it depends on where you are in your business. What you shared with me, it sounds like you're about 1.5 years in Williamsburg. It is about not who you know, it's about who knows you at this point of the game. I think you're right. A standing appointment that you've got to fill on on Thursdays, I'm going to have 2 COI appointments. I know insurance quite well, or either strategic partner, and fill that appointment with whomever it is, with the intention of getting more well-known in the community. I want to be the face of X, Y, and Z, and I just need to know these really influential people out here, but also with what can you do for them? A little piece of advice. There have been a lot of people that have come into Williamsburg. They're hot for about 5 years and then they vanish. Nobody knows where they went.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and I share this with you, there's a lot of what's this guy going to do? How long is he going to be around? So they'll entertain you. But to Mark's point, what kind of equity are you bringing to that relationship? How can you help them, not just with their business, but really get to know them? I think that's the hard part about breaking into the Williamsburg market, is you got to be able to really put in a lot of things before you can expect to get something. I mean, it was 2-3 years. I fell from outer space. I came from Charlottesville and then came to Williamsburg. I didn't even ask for referrals except when I had to. Just because I was trying to help other people, just to be like, hey, this guy isn't always begging for referrals. He was actually trying to connect me with other people. So the whole giver's gain philosophy is really paramount in the Williamsburg network, is try to do your best to help other people before expecting that to be reciprocated with prospects.
Cool.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
One thing I would suggest, Williamsburg is a tough nut to crack. Getting in front of people and getting to know as many people in Williamsburg, it is a small, close-knit community. One of the things I did, and I've been on it for a long time, is I'm on the membership committee on the chamber, and Chris is on the ambassadors committee. And the reason I'm on that committee is part of what we do is we reach out to new businesses and past businesses to see if they want to join the chamber and all that. So it really helps me reach out to people. It gives me a list every month. It's our meetings are like 30 to 45 minutes, and we have a list at the end of the meeting that we're going to go out and talk to these people on behalf of the chamber. But you're also talking to them as Mike from State Farm, so you can have a conversation with them and just explain to them why you joined the chamber and things like that, and just get that conversation started. And me personally, I've met a lot of people through the committee membership, and just getting to know people that way.
We were talking about, there's Williamsburg folks in general are also seeing how much you're giving back to the community. So the longer you're on these committees trying to help other folks, you're working on your personal brand as well, of getting folks out that, you're a solid guy, you're trying to help folks. and getting on the committees. This isn't a recruitment tool for the committees, but it's turning into one. Yay.
You got me.
I'm hoping on the membership.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. I know I've been on it, 10 years, 10, 11 years I've been on a committee in some way, shape, or form. And it's a great way to help folks. And you're not in the capacity of always soliciting, but that's important to the greater community in Williamsburg is how are you giving back to the business community in general?
So yes, to echo on what both my membership committee and my ambassador committee have said, there are different ways to connect with people. And I'll provide the link in the chat box for other committees that the Business Council offer. Coming up on the hour mark. So does anybody have anything else for the good of the cause? I want to be mindful of everybody's time. No. Good. So next steps is I'm going to send out a thank you email here in a couple of minutes with everybody's names and emails who were on the call. So if you guys want to connect afterwards, you have that freedom. And I will provide a link for all of the committees offered here at the Business Council. And you guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to get those questions answered. And I greatly appreciate everybody for joining today on behalf of the Ambassador Committee. This is going to be a monthly networking panel. So if there are topics that you're interested in diving into more, there will be a survey attached, or just send me an email of something you'd be interested in discussing, and we will take it up for consideration. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Have a great day,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you.